The year was 2157. Humanity had just begun to reach beyond our solar system when we received the message that would change everything. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a welcome to the galactic community. It was a dismissal. Primitive carbon-based lifeforms. Your expansion ends here. The message came from the Kaelor Dominion, a civilization that had mastered faster-than-light travel millennia before humans even discovered fire. To them, we were nothing more than insects who had somehow stumbled into technology we didn't deserve. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship, reading the translated message for the third time. Around her, the crew worked in tense silence. Everyone knew what was coming. The Kaelor's arrogance. The Kaelor had been watching us for decades. They'd seen our wars, our struggles, our fumbling attempts at space colonization. To them, we were a species barely worth acknowledging. They had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours without breaking stride. When their fleet appeared at the edge of the Kepler system, humanity's newest colony, they didn't even bother with diplomacy. 3 massive dreadnoughts materialized from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. Their weapons were already charging. The colonial defense force didn't stand a chance. Within minutes, 12 human ships were reduced to debris. The Kaelor commander broadcasted a message to the fleeing colonists below: surrender your worlds. Return to your primitive planet. The stars are not for creatures like you. But the Kaelor made one critical mistake. They underestimated what desperation could breed. They didn't understand that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our technology, it was our refusal to accept defeat. Humanity's response. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council convened in emergency session. Military leaders argued for immediate retaliation. Scientists begged for more time to develop counterweapons. Politicians debated surrender terms. Commander Chen, however, had a different idea. She had studied every piece of data they had on the Kaelor. Their ships were powerful, yes. Their shields were nearly impenetrable. Their weapons could tear through human vessels like paper. But there was something in their tactics, something in the way they fought, that revealed a crucial weakness. The Kaelor had never faced an opponent who fought like humans. Every civilization they'd conquered had been more advanced, more refined, more logical in their warfare. They followed predictable patterns, used established strategies, fought according to the accepted rules of galactic combat. Humans didn't know those rules. And Chen planned to use that ignorance as a weapon. The trap. Chen presented her plan to Admiral Marcus Torres. It was insane. It was reckless. It violated every principle of modern space warfare. Torres approved it immediately. The ESS Defiance, along with 27 other ships, would engage the Kaelor fleet directly at the ruins of Kepler colony. They would appear to fight conventionally, drawing the enemy into what seemed like a straightforward battle. The Kaelor would expect humanity to retreat, to use superior numbers and desperate tactics. Instead, Chen had something else in mind. Hidden among the debris field of the destroyed colony ships were dozens of modified mining vessels, their reactors overloaded and primed for detonation. Scattered throughout the system were hundreds of dead satellites, actually dormant weapons platforms with cold drives, invisible to the Kaelor sensors. But the real surprise was the Defiance itself. Chen had ordered the removal of half the ship's defensive systems, replacing them with an experimental weapon that Earth's scientists had been developing in secret, a quantum destabilizer that could, in theory, collapse the exotic matter fields that powered Kaelor shields. It had never been tested in combat. The simulations gave it a 30% success rate. Chen didn't care about the odds. The battle begins. The Kaelor fleet arrived exactly when Chen predicted. 3 dreadnoughts, accompanied by 24 support vessels. The Kaelor commander, whose name translated roughly to Sovereign of the Lesser Realms, opened a channel. His species looked vaguely reptilian, with crystalline structures growing from their skulls. His eyes held nothing but contempt. You still resist. Your species' capacity for self-destruction is almost admirable. We will make your end swift. Chen smiled. You called us primitive. You're about to learn why primitives are dangerous. The Kaelor fleet opened fire. Energy beams capable of vaporizing asteroids lanced through space. The human formation scattered, ships diving and weaving through the bombardment. 2 cruisers took direct hits, their shields failing instantly, hulls buckling. The battle looked like a massacre. The Kaelor pressed forward, confident in their superiority. They moved into the debris field, their massive ships pushing aside the wreckage of humanity's first defeat. Chen waited. Watched. Calculated. Now, she whispered. Everything changes. The mining vessels detonated simultaneously. The explosions weren't meant to damage the Kaelor ships, their shields could absorb far worse. Instead, the detonations created massive electromagnetic pulses that rippled through space, interfering with sensor arrays. For exactly 4 seconds, the Kaelor fleet was blind. In those 4 seconds, the dead satellites came alive. Hundreds of them, firing not at the dreadnoughts, but at the support vessels. The smaller Kaelor ships, unprepared for attacks from what they thought was empty space, took devastating hits. 6 were destroyed immediately. 8 more sustained critical damage. The Kaelor commander roared orders, but Chen wasn't done. The Defiance accelerated directly toward the lead dreadnought. Every conventional weapon on every human ship opened fire simultaneously, all targeting the same dreadnought's shield at the same point. The Kaelor shields held, barely, but the concentrated fire caused massive power fluctuations. That's when Chen fired the quantum destabilizer. The beam was invisible, undetectable until it struck. It didn't try to overpower the Kaelor shield, it simply made the exotic matter field holding it together forget how to exist. For a fraction of a second, a section of the dreadnought's shield collapsed. That was all Chen needed. All ships, focus fire. Target that breach. Missiles, rail gun rounds, plasma bolts, everything humanity had, poured through the gap. The dreadnought's armor, never designed to take direct hits, began to fail. Explosions rippled across its hull. The Kaelor commander finally understood. These primitives weren't fighting a civilized war. They were fighting like cornered animals, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely vicious. The tide turns. The other 2 dreadnoughts moved to protect their flagship, but that was exactly what Chen wanted. As they shifted position, they moved away from their support vessels, breaking formation. Human fighters, small and fast, swarmed the isolated support ships. The Kaelor had shields designed to stop capital ship weapons, not swarms of tiny craft firing from 100 different angles simultaneously. It was like trying to stop mosquitoes with a sledgehammer. Commander Chen pushed the Defiance harder, staying in close to the damaged dreadnought. At this range, the massive ship couldn't bring its main weapons to bear without risking hitting its own vessels. The Kaelor were hamstrung by their own power. Another quantum destabilizer shot. Another shield breach. More focused fire. The lead dreadnought's reactor went critical. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, the Kaelor formation was in chaos. Support vessels scattered. The remaining dreadnoughts, suddenly vulnerable, began to retreat. But Chen wasn't letting them go. All ships, pursuit formation. We end this now. The human fleet, battered and bleeding but unbowed, charged after the retreating Kaelor. The second dreadnought fell when its engines were disabled, leaving it a sitting target. The third managed to escape into hyperspace, but not before taking catastrophic damage. Aftermath. The Battle of Kepler's grave, as it came to be known, lasted 17 minutes. In that time, humanity destroyed the most powerful fleet the Kaelor Dominion had sent in over a century. The casualty lists were long, 800 human lives lost, but they had proven something that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't primitive because they lacked technology. They were dangerous because they refused to fight by anyone else's rules. The Kaelor never returned to human space. The sovereign of the lesser realm survived and brought news of the battle back to his people. The Dominion, accustomed to easy victories, decided that conquering humanity would cost more than it was worth. But the real change came from the other species watching. Dozens of civilizations had been monitoring the battle, waiting to see how the newcomers would fare. What they saw was a species that won not through superior technology, but through creativity, desperation, and an absolute refusal to surrender. First contact invitations began arriving within weeks. Trade agreements. Technology exchanges. Diplomatic overtures. The galaxy, it seemed, had room for primitives after all, especially primitives who could think outside every established tactical doctrine.